A teacher whose class video made her a national sensation dies from COVID-19 at 35.
It's the video where the kids point to a sign on a wall on whether they want to be greeted with a hug, handshake, or fist bump, might be missing a greeting there, and then greeting each other. It's both quite cute and a good lesson on consent, and so the video was everywhere in 2018. This is really sad. The video showed classmates hugging one another before a weekend break, smiles spread across their faces as they said goodbye, a reminder of the human capacity for love and connection. She's from El Paso and loved by her community. Here's a link to her famous video from 2018. That video is so awesome and heartwarming. Imagine if adults were like this, what a beautiful world we would have. This is literally the antidote to social media poisoning. Very sad to think that the inventor of such a beautiful social innovation is gone. The consolation is that this will hopefully spur more people to adopt the spirit and practice of this. Hashtag hug for Ms. Blancas. In the richest nation of the world, a teacher famous for her kindness died alone, after exhausting her savings and with no income or other resources to cover her healthcare. This is just fucked up. Too bad the government spends $900 billion on the military and $80 billion on education. Maybe only spend $820 billion on the military and double your education budget, so you get less losers. I never understood how they can spend so much on school, but when I was in high school there weren't enough textbooks for kids, the computers were as old as me, the teachers always complained about pay, there weren't all those programs I'd see in old TV shows like Shop Class with power tools and woodworking and stuff, and just general crap like poorly made desks, chairs, or teachers having to buy supplies themselves. They have enough money to buy a fleet of stealth bombers but can't afford colored pencils for kids? Like, I can't even fathom how much corruption that amount of money brings. Is there some less nefarious explanation to why the school system sucks? I know a person who currently works at a school and the same problems seem to persist. I mean, this is objectively not true, but nobody who ever gets called out on this lie ever stops repeating it, so I don't know why I'm bothering. Edit. Since the op replied and then deleted their comment when they realized they were wrong, here's why they're wrong. The money you are referring to is federal spending. The vast majority of money spent by the U.S. government is not spent at the federal level. Federal spending in the U.S. is used only for federal projects, and most things aren't federal projects. The federal budget is almost entirely devoted to only three things: Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and the military, of which the military is the smallest of the three by a noticeable amount. Everything else is paid for at the state and local level. This holds true in education, which receives 95% of its funding at the state and local level. The federal government spends only $80 billion on education, yes, but the state and local governments spend $750 billion on K-12 education, and another $750 billion on post-secondary education. Cumulatively, the U.S. government spends substantially more on education than it does on the military. The richest nation in the world always seemed strange to me. In no way is that wealth available to all Americans. I fail to see the reason to celebrate it. Same with a great economy. For who? People are dying in the streets. The richest nation in the world. For the 1%. The greatest economy ever. For the 1%. The rest is paying for the party, but they're not invited. Sad to say, if she didn't live in TX, this may not have been the case. My state is above TX and has been great about giving people Medicaid. Even if you don't qualify, you will still be approved. They have been doing this since early 2020. If you apply and are making too much money, like when people were getting $600 a week in unemployment, you would still be approved. If you are poor, the worst place to live in the US is in the South. The brightness here is that she did live. And she taught these kids. They will not forget her. And it will be passed on. Lost a parent here not long ago. Too damned early. Very hard. So much left to give. But thinking about how much life was lived and how that person affected so many other people during the time they had, has been helpful. A life well lived remains lived. Her last tweet was the day before she went into the hospital. Sad face. Because the status quo. Yo. I've had this argument with people many times and I am tired of having it. People can't afford healthcare. Well, we can't do universal health care because people would have to wait to see a doctor and it would implode the whole system. It's not self-sustaining. People have to wait now. Takes 3 to 6 months to see a doctor. If you aren't dying when you go to the ER, you still have to wait hours to be seen. It'll be so much worse. You'll have to wait days. It works fine in European countries that have adopted it. But their taxes are so high. Taxes are high here too. You just can't do it because it'll be awful. That's about where the argument ends. You can't fix anything because it will be bad. My country has gov-funded healthcare and private healthcare as well. Usually it's faster to go private through my very good insurance, except any time I've needed to see a specialist, it still takes weeks. Also, whenever something gets serious over here, the private system refers people to the public one anyway, i.e. surgeries. Granted, there are big bureaucratic issues that need solving, but at least nobody is dying because they're poor. If an island nation with 5 million people can figure it out, then the richest country on earth should be able to. Literally just saw a post conflating the need for proper healthcare and living wages with the laziest strawman communist teenager an older person can think of. A man in the comments was saying how he was so proud to work well into his 70s. Another mentioned that they figured out how to afford college by going into the military. It's kind of tragic to watch. Because they've been conditioned to think they somehow save money having to pay for it themselves. It's no joke when people say Americans are the most deluded people on the planet. They honestly think they're number one in everything, and I think the pandemic really proved how far they are willing to believe that even after so many unnecessary deaths. Lol. Look at the way we cover peaceful protests. Portland under siege. Seattle a lawless den of anarchy. We are sad, greedy cowards. Promise that we get to keep our table scraps if we don't look at what's actually on the table and stoke fears that the alternative is literal death. If we actually rioted, the government and their soldier LARPing, patriot, supporters would make Tiananmen Square look like an act of restraint. Okay, I read through both the article referenced and the GoFundMe page. I want to add context, not defend, attack the American healthcare system. Due to the teacher's extended stay at the hospital, she exhausted all her paid time off and had to bear the full cost of health insurance on her own. I take this as needing to pay both the insurance premium, that most employers pay some share of, whatever associated co-pays, deductibles, and out-of-pocket costs that one needs to incur on items not covered by the insurance. I'm also inferring that the school district where she was hired did not extend the insurance premium payment to her, as her status went from paid time off to unpaid time off, still employed but likely as leave of absence. I don't get why Americans aren't constantly rioting over how broken this country is. Because of people like my mother and my mother-in-law. One of their beliefs is that if everybody has healthcare, then the ERs and clinics would be so full of grifters that they could never get in to be seen for treatment. My mother-in-law has even stated that she will not wait in a waiting room for days to be seen while other people get attention before her. You can guess what she meant by other. There is a lot more of their bullshit I could go on about, but this is one of the big ones. Wish I was making it up. My own mother. Because most people cannot afford to miss a day's work to go riot or protest. This is by design. People are given low enough wages that they are unable to afford any time off because just a day off work is setback enough. I work 2 jobs just to pay my bills, and most of the money from one job just goes to my student loans. But working 2 jobs gives me just enough leeway to afford some time off if I need a weekday to do a doctor visit or something personal I can't normally do on a weekend. Because Americans enjoy a high standard of living even in technical poverty relative to most of the world, and rioting means risking some of that comfort. Many of the people who talk about living below the poverty line on Reddit, like myself, own a smartphone, computer, and never miss a meal, also like myself. In a nutshell, riots, the majority kind, happen when the standard of living falls low enough that the discomfort outweighs the risks. America is not there yet. She was so young. Ms. Blancas tested positive for the virus on October 20th and was hospitalized a few days later, her brother, Mario Blancas, said. After she had spent nearly 2 months in the ICU and had exhausted all of her available sick days and paid time off, Mr. Blancas set up a GoFundMe page on December 14 to help pay for his sister's health care since she would soon be without an income and will have to pay the full cost of her health insurance out of pocket, according to the page. But this week, at just 35 years old, Ms. Blancas died of complications from COVID-19. Not only young but responsible and hardworking. She did all the right things and the system screwed her right before she passed away. Wealthiest country in the world and can't even care for those who take care of and teach the next generation. Fuck this. I'm supposed to go back to work at a school tomorrow and see students in person for appointments. If I go to work, I risk bringing COVID home to my family. If I don't go, I get fired and can't feed my family. I fucking hate all of this. Hey, I'm in the same boat. I don't know if it'll make you feel any better, but I've been wearing a large double-layer cloth mask with elastic that goes around my head with a KN95 mask underneath while teaching. If I have to walk through the halls where I can't socially distance, I wear a shield on top of that. I only wear each mask for one day, wash the cloth mask, throw away the KN95. I'm linking you the cloth masks and the KN95 masks I buy. Maybe it's wishful thinking, but I feel much more secure. I also eat lunch in my car or outside, even though it's freezing where I live. Not taking my masks off in the building, period. I don't know how so many people do it. I've been saying I want to go all remote. I'm a teacher, and our attendance secretary pointed out she would likely lose her job if we did. It's so awful. Been working there since my wife was a kid, went to the high school I teach at, and would be shit-canned like that. So what's the solution? I'm not going to advocate for my friend to lose her job even if that puts me at risk. Fuck. I know we gripe about teacher pay, but all the other staff are the ones who should complain. I was getting $11 an hour as a TA. Fucking unreal. Good luck, whatever your position. Welcome to what essential workers in grocery stores, public transit, etc. have had to deal with, non-stop, for the last 10 months. Making minimum wage to get harassed, accosted, assaulted and in some cases killed for trying to enforce a simple mask policy. This while also risking their and their family's life and health during a pandemic, to work in an industry that proves little to no protection or health insurance. It's too bad the public got bored and moved about that. After she had spent nearly 2 months in the ICU and had exhausted all of her available sick days and paid time off, Mr. Blancas set up a GoFundMe page on December 14 to help pay for his sister's health care since she would soon be without an income and will have to pay the full cost of her health insurance out of pocket, according to the page. Third world country. I'm a teacher. We're above 20% COVID positivity among the education staff in my school, congregate care, 100% face-to-face since June. My principal keeps praising people for their dedication to show up every day, and I agree. They're enduring a lot of stress, in a tough environment, for leadership that for the most part doesn't respect or appreciate them. All staff at my school share a single toilet. We've run out of hand soap in that restroom twice since June. My colleagues are most definitely dedicated. I have been using my personal leave to stay home since the end of November, after a particularly unpleasant workplace exposure and repeated COVID-related issues at my son's daycares. However, the pressure to create favorable optics has resulted in a staff member reporting to work sick because he didn't want anyone to think he wasn't dedicated to his job. He tested positive after being asked to leave the building. Staff have also returned while still actively infectious, so as not to risk being perceived as undedicated. I love my job, and I love my students, but I love my own biological children more, and it sucks to feel that prioritizing my own family somehow means I don't care about my job. It's a really uncomfortable spot to sit in, professionally, but I know a lot of people are in similar positions, so I guess it is what it is. It doesn't have to be this way. I am a teacher in Australia. Despite not having an outbreak, there was a scare in July and last month. Since April, we have been able to get paid days off if we feel slightly sick and get a COVID test. Paid days off until our test results came back. Additionally, we did 5 weeks distance learning, on top of 2 weeks holiday, during the big lockdown we had in April, May that eliminated the virus from our state of 5 million people. If your school was doing what Australia is doing, then the slightest cold would mean days paid off if you had to get a COVID test with a casual teacher filling in for those days. Don't let people in America tell you it has to be that way. I'm an American as well. I have been living overseas 7 years in other first world nations before settling in AUS. There are so many better ways to do this. Though I do miss legal cannabis and big snow mountains. I don't understand why the situation is getting so bad in USA and India. Daily deaths due to COVID has declined to approximately 250, which is the same number as it was back in June. ICUs are getting empty. My sister is a doctor and COVID ICU in her hospital is being shut down next month due to lack of patients. There were 50 to 60 COVID patients a few months back, now there are hardly 2 or 3. Tens of thousands of farmers have been protesting on the borders of Delhi, without masks, in close proximity with each other, with no COVID outbreak. Why is the US doing so badly compared to India? What kind of innate immunity do Indians have? Anyone who had worked with Zelene Blancas in El Paso knew her as a teacher whose goal was to spread compassion above all else. Ms. Blancas, who was born in Texas and lived in Mexico for much of her childhood, was a bilingual Spanish teacher at Dr. Sue Shook Elementary School, and she was hoping to become a bilingual special education teacher. She gained popularity online after posting a video in 2018 of her students that gained more than 23 million views. It showed classmates hugging one another before a weekend break, smiles spread across their faces as they said goodbye, a reminder of the human capacity for love and connection. Ms. Blancas tested positive for the virus on October 20 and was hospitalized a few days later, her brother, Mario Blancas, said. After she had spent nearly 2 months in the ICU and had exhausted all of her available sick days and paid time off, Mr. Blancas set up a GoFundMe page on December 14 to help pay for his sister's health care since she would soon be without an income and will have to pay the full cost of her health insurance out of pocket, according to the page. But this week, at just 35 years old, Ms. Blancas died of complications from COVID-19. Her death has devastated the city. During her teaching career, Ms. Blancas would often stay up late to speak on the phone with her students' parents. She ran a literacy program for parents in the evenings, and when classes shifted to remote learning during the pandemic, she delivered care packages, complete with handwritten notes, to her students. Even from her hospital bed, Ms. Blancas was asking about her work at school, said her principal, Cristina Sanchez Chavira. Her calling was just to spread kindness, Ms. Sanchez Chavira said. I think education was the vehicle that she found, but that was her. She embodied kindness, and making others feel special. And she did that in and outside of the classroom. Ms. Blancas had been shocked to see the 2018 video clip of her students being shared so widely, Ms. Sanchez Chavira said, adding that for Ms. Blancas, encouraging empathy among her students had always been a priority. She was so humble about it, Ms. Sanchez Chavira said of the video. She was just doing everything for the kids, and I think that's what made her such a phenomenal teacher, because she just did everything from her heart. Ms. Blancas spent her 35th birthday in her hospital room, without family by her side, Mr. Blancas said. The nurses all signed a birthday card for her, and her father sent her a picture of a cake and balloons. The day before her death, Mr. Blancas said, he was able to visit his sister. It was painful, he said, to see his only sister in a hospital bed, breathing through a tube, her face swollen from the treatments. He brought a gift he knew would make her happy, a blanket emblazoned with pictures of her 2 beloved dogs, Chico and Rocky. Teachers are teaching in conditions that would close most hospitals. And with most people traveling and getting together if groups over the holidays, at least in the South or here in the Midwest, students are going to be carrying the virus back into classrooms with schools starting up again next week. Expect more heartbreaking stories like this one. Seeing cases like this with young severely overweight people dying scares the fuck out of me. I've lost over 100 pounds since the pandemic started, am still morbidly obese, so will continue to lose weight, but in the meanwhile I feel absolutely hopeless just waiting to get COVID. I live in London, so it's pretty much inevitable, and then rolling the dice on whether or not I survive. I've worked so hard for a second go at life the past year, and there's a very real possibility I won't live long enough to live it. Jesus fucking Christ. I wish her family and her students peace and solace. We keep dying for you fuckers, and all we get is criticism for why we don't want to go back. Let me yell louder what I can't say or I'll get fired. Schools spread COVID, you fucking tone-deaf Republican twats. We are now dying at our jobs because learning from home is hard. I'm ready to fucking quit, y'all. I love teaching, but, you know, I love being alive a hell of a lot more. This is scary. I am a 37 years old SPED teacher in Mississippi. We have been having in school since the year started in August. I go back on Tuesday. Not going to lie, this is the first time I feel scared. I was nervous in August but hopefully optimistic, but with all the unethical tricks I have seen the district pulling, I am genuinely scared now to continue in school teaching. Ms. Blancas tested positive for the virus on October 20th and was hospitalized a few days later, her brother, Mario Blancas, said. After she had spent nearly 2 months in the ICU and had exhausted all of her available sick days and paid time off, Mr. Blancas set up a GoFundMe page on December 14th to help pay for his sister's health care since she would soon be without an income and will have to pay the full cost of her health insurance out of pocket, according to the page. USA. WTF.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like the video. And if you are new, subscribe and click on the bell icon.